What's up, guys? Shay Stevens here, PDGA number 77522, and today we're checking out the newest offering in the James Conrad line, the Neutron Trail. Let's get to it. Along with being the new offering in the James Conrad line, the Trail is also debuting as the first 10-speed ever offered by MVP. Flight numbers on the Trail are speed of 10, glide of 5, turn of -1, and a fade of 1. Initial thoughts just on feel, it's kind of giving me vibes of the old Discmania CD. For those who are familiar with it, I threw it for a little bit. Just a nice, really comfortable rim. I like the feel of it. Good amount of dome on it, you'll see here. And I got a 171 gram from MVP, so that's right in my wheelhouse. Now, as always, before we get to the throws, I got some side-by-sides for you guys to check out. And starting off with the side-by-sides, we have the stock release of the Neutron Trail on the left up against the prototype on the right. I did manage to get one from the pro shop. Looking at these two side-by-side, they are a perfect match. Parting lines are lined up, looking good. Now, I did hear for some other testers who were able to get prototypes that theirs were different. They said their prototypes had a little bit of nose variance. And the big one they said was the domes were very different. So I flipped mine over just to double check, and I don't have a difference in mine. So my prototype and stock release are pretty much identical, but it would make sense that there would be some variance among prototypes. That's why they're prototypes. And to compare against the molds that I usually bag, on the left you have the Trail, on the right you have a Plasma Volt. Now you'll notice the nose and parting line on the Volt are higher than the Trail, which does make sense. The turn and fade on the Volt are turned of -0.5 and a fade of 2 compared to the -1 of the Trail, so it should be more overstable. So I do expect the nose to be higher, but I didn't expect the difference to be that drastic, so that was something that caught my attention. And wrapping up the comparisons, on the left we have the Trail, on the right we have a Fission Photon, a longtime staple in my bag. This is pretty interesting. You would expect the Fission Photon to have a higher nose than the Trail, given its turn and fade are -1.5 and a fade of 2, so technically 0.5 overstable. However, this is a slightly understable run of Fission Photon, given my experience with them. So I think it's more like a -2 if I had to give it flight numbers. So the nose is being pretty close. That is to be expected. I mean, you really got to zoom in here. You can see the new finishing process from MVP. Really love it. No flashing. Gives a nice smooth finish around the disc. But it does make the parting line a little harder to spot. It's actually a little bit wider, so you got to really zoom in there. But they're pretty darn close. All right, now setting the scene for these throws. First off, I left the prototype at home just because if there was any variances, I didn't want them to give you guys any wrong ideas about how the Trail flies. So going with just a stock run for these shots, so that way you guys can see what you would be getting if you want to order a Trail. Next up, I am throwing at twilight, so sorry for the goofy lighting. You'll see the field lights are up. Basically, I played around that morning at Tyler in the hardest layout on the east side. Video of that coming soon. And came home, did work at my house, and then when I was eating dinner, looked at my phone and saw on the weather app that there was a chance of storms for the foreseeable future. It's actually thunderstorming right now if you catch any thunder in the background. But yeah, I want to make sure I got out there, got some throws on film for you guys, just so you guys can have that to make an informed decision when the time comes if you want to order one. And then lastly, there is a slight headwind out there. We're talking less than 5 miles an hour, but I want you to be aware of it. So starting off on hyzer, really love the pushing hyzer on the Trail. It actually flipped up a little bit more than I was expecting, but just gave me a great, panning hyzer finish. Good distance. The one shot though that really impressed me was I threw a low piercing hyzer shot. That's something I do a lot in the woods when I have to deal with a ceiling, or even out in the open if it's windy to stay out of the wind. And the Trail actually flipped up to like almost flat and just kept pushing and fighting forward, giving me good distance with very little air under it to work it. That dome really showed off that it was got that pocket of air under it and wanted to ride, and gave me some great fight forward. So that was that's something I really liked about the Trail. On flat, I did have some trouble finding that sweet spot. It felt like I was hitting it flat with a good pop, and the Trail was just drifting over for me. I was not expecting that. I have a -1 disc. So what I did was I kind of down-tempoed a little bit, hit with a little bit of hyzer for safety, and that was giving me these kind of like tight S shots that I was expecting out of the Trail. And they were actually going pretty darn far. I think my farthest pop on it got me out to like 372, which, end of day, a little bit of headwind, not bad at all. So definitely very workable in that range. And then Anheuser, I struggled to find it or to find that angle where you hit it and get that nice slow panning Anheuser we all love to watch. Kind of dug into the ground for me on that Anheuser line. So on a whim, I thought, what the heck? Let's try and roll this thing. So I actually throw a roller with this, and I got it down on angle. So it's a -1-1 disc, it says, but I don't think I should be able to roll something like that. On forehand, very impressed with it on forehand. Very little effort, a lot of distance, very similar to backhand Heiser. Same deal. I usually throw forehands on Heiser just because that's what I need him to do, go right. And the trail just, pushes nice and forward, dumps out. I was easily getting out into the 270s, 280s, just kind of popping my wrist on it. And then when I hit it with a little bit of angle and flex, it actually put it up in the air more higher than I wanted to. That shot went 315 feet. The top end of my forehand game is usually somewhere in the 330, 335 range. So yeah, pretty darn effortless. The glide on this disc, very impressive. So, the trail is definitely a very useful disc for a lot of people who are looking for that 10-speed slot. I think this is a great introduction to 10 speeds for MVP. My final thoughts on it, I do kind of question the -1-1, I will admit. It kind of felt more like a old Discmania CD. We're talking like the Innova made stuff. That was a -2-1 disc. I feel like this flies very similar to that. Again, not a bad thing. I thought the trail's initial flight number was going to be like a -3-1. I thought it was going to be a Heiser flip workhorse. So got something in between that I could beat into that -3-1 that I was expecting. Will it make my bag? For now, it's going into my fieldwork bag. I just want to keep working with more. My big problem for the trail is if I were to bag it, I don't know what I'm taking out. It kind of covers the top end of my fission volts and the bottom end of my fission photons. The problem is the volts and photons kind of cover other ranges. So if I was going to take the, if I was going to put the trail in, I'd probably have to pull my fission photons out and replace them with time lapses and the trail, kind of combo those up. And I don't want to mess with my bag too much right now. I'm still trying to figure some other stuff out. So for the time being, it'll just be in my fieldwork bag. And I'll keep working with it, but keep an eye out. It might pop up in the bag. With that, guys, I want to say thank you to MVP for sending me this tester. I really enjoyed it. Had a great time throwing it. And to you guys, thank you for all your support. If you have any questions for me, reach out. I'll do my best to answer them. Take care. Thank you to my sponsors. For all your disc golf needs, check out Phoenix Discs and Foundation Disc Golf.